There are many different ways to cook a steak. In the skillet, on the grill, right on the hot flame. But I believe to get the best, juiciest steak, it has to be cooked in a skillet. But not just any skillet. The trusty cast iron. Now, I've seen lots of YouTube videos of people teaching you how to cook the perfect steak. Now, while those steaks are, I'm sure, very well cooked, there's still a better way to do it. And I'm gonna warn you, this goes against every rule you thought you knew about steak. My first time cooking a steak was at Alexander's restaurant in Chicago. I was 10 or 11 years old. My parents took me there for my birthday because steak was my favorite food, and Alexander's was my favorite steakhouse. Not just because they let you cook your own steak, but also because Alexander is my middle name. Might as well be steak. I parked myself next to the chef, copied all of his actions, and brought back to my table a perfect steak.
First try.
Like one of those you see in the YouTube videos. Funny story, I actually went vegan back in 2017, but I do still have cheat days, and every birthday is definitely a cheat day. Well, guess what today is? It's my birthday! And instead of going to a steakhouse, I decided I'm gonna stay home because I can cook a steak better than any restaurant, and I want to show you how. So today on Flexin in the Kitchen, I'm making New York strip with broccoli rabe and garlic mashed potatoes. Right about now, you're probably asking yourself, why is my steak better than yours? Well, it comes down to just 3 simple rules everybody can follow. Number 1, pick the right steak. As with most things in life, garbage in, garbage out. If you buy a poor quality steak, there's no way you can have a good quality cook. I recommend any T-bone, sirloin, strip, or ribeye. And today, of course, we're cooking a New York strip. Number 2, don't touch. Any good cook knows if you want to get that beautiful golden brown color on your food, you have to leave it alone and let it cook. Number 3, let it rest. Not just at the end, but at the beginning too. Even if you're not using my seasoning method, putting a cold steak into a hot pan means you have to overcook the outside just to bring the center to temperature. But enough talk. Let's go flex.
As I said, make sure you start with good quality meat with nice fat marbling because fat is flavor. Now, that's the last thing that's going to feel familiar about cooking a steak. There's a few things I do differently that makes a perfect steak even better. Let's season. Good amount of salt. Don't skimp. It's a thick cut of meat and then, no, pepper, no.
Chill out, bro.
Pepper changes the flavor too much and can turn rancid if you overcook it. Pepper after the steak is cooked. Once it's seasoned on both sides, we're gonna let it rest for at least 20 minutes. Not only are we bringing it to temp, we're letting that salt brine the meat. While it's resting, let's work on these sides. Bring a pot of water to a boil. We're gonna use it to blanch our veggies and cook our potatoes. First the veggies. Wait, salt. I forgot. Y'all gotta salt the water, y'all.
Right.
Then the veggies. We're gonna let the broccoli rabe boil for 1 to 2 minutes, then put it in a bowl of cold water. We do this step before the final cook so the broccolini keeps its color and cooks faster at the end. We're using the same pot for the potato, so once the broccolini is done, add about 3 to 14 cloves of garlic depending on your preference, then put in your potatoes. I added 3 this time just because y'all are watching, but you best believe ordinarily I am a garlic girl. When you can poke a piece of potato with a fork and it easily falls apart, you know it's done. Drain, then add back to the pot. And don't forget the last piece of garlic. Now that you have this, set it aside. We ain't ready for that yet. Our steak has rested 30 minutes and you can see that deep red color and the salt has pulled out some moisture. Don't pat it dry. That's our salt brine. For the star of the show, the cast iron skillet. It's going to give us an even heat and an even cook. I'm preheating over medium heat until it's good and hot. You'll know it's hot when the oil swirls easily, starts to shimmer, or the steak makes this beautiful sound when it hits the pan. So good. Rule number 2 is now in effect. Don't touch. Once you drop that meat in the pan, do not move it. Let it stay where it is so it can get a nice brown sear. While it's cooking, we're adding butter, rosemary, thyme, marjoram. Marjoram tastes like oregano, but a bit more citrusy. I don't add too much. Let that melt into the butter and use that to baste your steak right off the bat. You know what, y'all? I forgot garlic, so add that too. It's important. After a few minutes of basting, I collect my herbs and place them on top of the steak while it cooks. I don't want the herbs to burn and change the flavor, but I still want them around while I'm basting. Cooking them in the butter for that time means the butter has already been infused with their flavor, so having them around just for basting will be plenty. Next step, cover. I know, this breaks the rules, but trust me, we're only searing the steak on one side, so we have to cover for 2 to 5 minutes to reach the desired doneness. Once that time is up, take the cover off, enjoy the beautiful goodness before we flip. I want to take this time to point out that I have been moving the pan to reach different sides of the steak, not the steak itself. Remember, don't touch. Next, one final baste of that garlic herb butter before we flip this beauty. Bam! There it is! Poke test of the steak to see how we're doing. It needs a couple more minutes before we reach a perfect medium well. While the other side cooks, I'm gonna work on the sauce. I sliced and salted shiitake mushrooms and let them sit to draw out the moisture. I'm adding those to the hot pan. This will be part of our sauce. Final poke test and it's ready to come off, herbs and all to sit and rest. I place a sheet of foil on top as it rests, but do not cover it tightly or it'll steam. To the mushrooms, I'm adding butter, thyme, marjoram, and cornstarch. I'm not using flour because it's much heavier and would make this more of a gravy, which I don't want. I want a light sauce that I could use on my steak and potatoes that doesn't overpower the flavor. Cornstarch will do. Similar to a roux, I still want to cook it to get rid of that raw flavor. Then, red wine. I used a nice Chianti because... but use something you'd actually drink. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. Once it's well incorporated, off heat, I add butter, onion powder, garlic powder, salt. At this point, the stems left over from the fresh herbs, take those out. You haven't forgot about our steak, have you? Well, it's been over there redistributing juices for some time, and some have leaked out that we don't want to go to waste. I'm adding that to my sauce. Get that garlic out of there and mix together. Taste test, I think it needs salt, pepper, and a little bit of water to thin it out. Again, I want a light, flavorful sauce. One final taste test and, that's it. Ooh, this sauce is good. Okay, potatoes. The secret to light, fluffy potatoes is to mash them over a low heat. You want to evaporate off any excess water. I'm adding butter, garlic powder, salt, mayo, a splash of milk. Mix it together. I promise you, these potatoes are great by themselves, but that mushroom gravy is really going to set this off. So for now, set it aside. I actually want to reuse this pan, so once it's clean, to the hot pan, add oil, butter, let it melt. Broccoli rabe. These don't need to cook for a very long time since we blanched them, but right now I'm going to add salt, onion powder. I wanted to do something different for these and not add garlic this time, but I added garlic. Cook a few more minutes, and in the last 30 seconds, add fresh squeezed lemon juice. Finally, it's time to plate. Our steak has rested for about 10 minutes, and it looks beautiful. The last step is bathing it in fresh butter. Time to cut. The moment you've all been waiting for. Oh my God, do you see that? Do you see that? How does he do it? Gorgeous. Let's move the steak to a plate. add the broccoli rabe and your fluffy garlic mashed potatoes. I like to add a well in the middle to hold plenty of that mushroom gravy, and don't forget, it doubles as a steak sauce. Straight Flexin. Guys, give this recipe a try. I promise you'll love it, and let me know in the comments what you think. I'll see you next Flex.